The little girl lifted a French fry from the abandoned plate at the next table, looked at her mother, and quietly put it back. I only caught the movement because my son Noah had stopped talking. Dad, he whispered, leaning across our booth, they haven't eaten. Across the crowded restaurant, a young woman sat beneath a flickering neon sign with one hand around a water glass and the other resting on her daughter's shoulder. Two menus lay closed in front of them. Every few minutes, she checked the clock above the kitchen doors, then looked through the front window at the rain. I knew that look. It was the face of someone counting minutes and dollars and possible disasters all at once. I also knew how fast help can turn into humiliation, so I didn't wave down the waitress. I didn't send over food. I stood, picked up the enormous platter of chicken and biscuits and mashed potatoes that Noah and I could never finish, and walked across the room with my 7-year-old beside me. The woman's shoulders tightened before I said a word. My son here is convinced we ordered enough food for a football team, I said. He's probably right. Would you help us keep the kitchen from throwing half of it out? She looked at the platter, then at me. I can pay for whatever we eat. I don't doubt it, I said. But you can settle an argument. Noah says biscuits are better with honey. I say jam. The little girl's eyes slid toward Noah. He held up both hands, solemn as a witness under oath. Honey, it's not even close. For the first time, the mother smiled. That smile would change all four of our lives, though none of us knew it yet. Before I tell you, I'll let us know in the comments where you're listening from today. And if you believe kindness should protect a person's dignity instead of stripping it away. Stay with me to the end because the last thing my son says in this story is the reason I'm telling it at all. My name is Daniel Reyes. I was 30. That spring, a paramedic with the Des Moines Fire Department and the single father of a boy who noticed more than I did. We lived in a narrow brick house on the east side of the city, 3 blocks from Noah's school and 2 from a park where the swings squeaked no matter how often the city oiled them. My wife Alina had died 3 years earlier, a sudden brain aneurysm on an ordinary Tuesday. Since then, I had become very good at schedules. I packed lunches on Sunday nights, laid out Noah's clothes before bed, and kept 3 alarms for every school event. I knew how to stop bleeding, restart a heart, and carry a frightened stranger down 2 flights of stairs. I did not know how to make our house feel alive again. That Friday, Noah had earned a restaurant dinner for finishing his first full month of reading without pretending the words had gone blurry. We chose Miller's Table because it served breakfast all day and because Elena once swore their cinnamon biscuits could repair a broken heart. The woman across from us introduced herself as Claire Morgan. She was 26, exactly 4 years younger than me. Her daughter was 5-year-old Lucy, a serious child with dark braids and a purple raincoat. Claire hesitated before she moved to our booth, and when she did, she kept her purse on her lap and put Lucy on the inside seat farthest from the aisle. It wasn't fear, it was habit. I had seen the same posture in patients who had learned that safety could vanish without warning. Noah presented Lucy with the basket of biscuits like it was a royal treasure. You can have the first one. Lucy looked at her mother. Claire nodded. 1. Lucy chose the smallest biscuit. Noah frowned. That one's mostly crust. I like crust. Nobody likes crust. I do. That was their first disagreement and the start of a friendship neither adult had planned. Claire ate slowly. She divided every serving before taking any for herself, and when the waitress offered refills, she declined before she realized they were free. She never explained why she and Lucy had been sitting with only water, and I didn't ask. Instead, we talked about ordinary things. Noah described a class project involving mealworms. Lucy announced that worms had feelings. Claire said she worked mornings at a physical therapy clinic and spent evenings on prerequisite classes for nursing school. I told her I worked 24-hour shifts and had an unhealthy relationship with vending machine coffee. You're a paramedic, she asked. Most days. And the other days, laundry manager, lunch packing supervisor, unlicensed math tutor. Noah shook his head. He's bad at division. Claire laughed, and this time the sound stayed a little longer. When the meal ended, she reached for the check. I put my hand over the paper before she could take it. Her eyes sharpened. This wasn't charity, I said. It was portion control. You told me you could pay, and I believe you, but the food was already ours. She studied me for a few seconds, then pulled two folded bills from her purse and tucked them under the sugar jar. For the tip. I wanted to argue. Instead, I nodded. Outside, rain drummed against the awning and the parking lot shone under the streetlights. Claire and Lucy stood near an old silver sedan with its hood raised. That explains the clock, I said. Claire gave me a tired look. The tow company said 45 minutes. That was 90 minutes ago. I glanced under the hood. One battery terminal had worked loose and was crusted with corrosion. It wasn't a repair I would trust for long, but it would get them home. I can tighten that, I said. Only if you want me to. She looked surprised by the last sentence. You know what you're doing. I know how not to touch metal with the wrong wrench. That's the best certification I have outside emergency medicine. Noah and Lucy stood under the awning comparing the restaurant's paper placemats. Claire stepped aside. All right, but if the car explodes, I'm blaming you. It did not explode. 10 minutes later, the engine turned over, and Claire closed her eyes for one brief second when she heard it. Relief softened her whole face, and I understood the car had been more than transportation. It was her route to work, Lucy's ride to school, and probably the thin line holding together a life with no room for a missed shift. I gave her the name of a mechanic I trusted. Tell him Daniel from Station 8 sent you. He'll explain what needs doing before he charges you a dime. Her expression changed again. I don't need a discount. I didn't offer one. I said he'd explain the bill first. That earned me another small smile. She wrote her phone number on the back of her receipt. In case your repair kills the car halfway home. Fair. The sedan pulled out of the lot. Noah stood beside me under the awning, his hood dripping. Do you think we'll see them again? Des Moines wasn't a small town, but it had a small town way of returning people to one another. I don't know, I said. Noah watched the red taillights disappear into the rain. I hope we do. I hope so too, which frightened me more than it should have. We saw them 9 days later at the Franklin Community Center. Noah and I were there for a Saturday safety fair. My station had a booth where kids could climb through an ambulance, try on a helmet, and learn how to call 911 without reporting a stolen cookie to the emergency line. I was showing a group of children how to wrap a bandage when Noah shot past me. Lucy. She stood near the gym doors, holding a paper cup of lemonade, and her whole face changed when she saw him. Claire was beside her, stacking donated books on a folding table. For 1 second, she looked as startled as she had in the restaurant. Then she relaxed. The car survived, she said when I walked over. Your reputation is safe. Barely. The mechanic replaced the terminal and showed me the old part before he charged me. He's annoyingly honest. He also said you told him not to reduce the price. I shrugged. You said you didn't want a discount. You looked like you meant it. She looked at me for a long moment. Most people hear the words. They don't always listen to them. I didn't know what to say, so I helped her move a box of books. Claire volunteered at the center twice a month. The building offered tutoring, free tax prep, senior lunches, and a small food pantry tucked behind the gym. She was helping with the children's reading program because Lucy loved books, and because, as Claire put it, somebody has to stop the dinosaurs from being shelved with the cookbooks. Noah and Lucy vanished into the activity room. Claire and I spent the next hour sorting paperbacks by age level. She told me she had moved to Des Moines 8 months earlier after separating from Lucy's father, Grant. They had never married. He lived in Kansas City and saw Lucy irregularly, usually after making promises he didn't keep. I'm not telling you that so you'll dislike him, Claire said. I'm telling you because people tend to ask. I wasn't going to. I know. She slid a stack of picture books onto a shelf. What about Noah's mother? The question still had edges, but fewer than before. She died 3 years ago. Claire stopped moving. Daniel, I'm sorry. Thank you. People usually say the wrong thing. Usually they tell me I'm strong. And you hate that. I don't hate it. I just never know what it means. She nodded like she understood more than I'd said. My mother died when I was 16. Afterward, people told me I had to be strong for my younger brother. What they meant was that my grief made them uncomfortable. We stood between shelves of donated books while children shouted in the next room, and something quiet passed between us. Not romance, not yet. recognition. Before we left, Noah talked Lucy into joining the center's after school art club. Claire and I compared schedules. I had Noah every day except alternating weekends with Elena's parents. Claire's shift ended 30 minutes after the club let out. I can bring Lucy home on Thursdays, I said. We live close to you. She shook her head at once. No, I'll figure it out. All right. The speed of my answer surprised her. I took out my phone. The offer's here if you need it. You don't have to decide now. 2 Thursdays later, Claire texted, is the ride offer still open? I can pay for gas. I wrote back, offers open. Gas payment denied. You can repay me by explaining fractions to Noah. That was how our Thursdays began. At first, everything was practical. I picked up the kids, drove Lucy home, and waited on the porch until Claire arrived. Sometimes she was 10 minutes late, sometimes 20, and she always texted first, apologizing as though traffic were a moral failing. By the fourth week, she stopped apologizing. By the sixth, she invited us in for grilled cheese. Claire's apartment was on the second floor of an old house split into 3 units. The kitchen floor sloped toward the back door. One cabinet refused to close. Lucy's drawings covered the refrigerator, held up by magnets from places neither of them had been. Noah sat at the table while Claire taught fractions with apple slices. If I cut this into 4 pieces and you eat one, what fraction is left? 3/4. And if Lucy eats one, 1/2. And if your father eats the rest, no dessert for him. Claire looked at me. He understands consequences. That's important. I started looking forward to Thursdays with an eagerness I tried to hide. Claire and I talked while the kids worked. She told me about anatomy exams and the elderly patients at the clinic who pretended not to understand their exercises because they wanted someone to stay a little longer. I told her about Noah's habit of sleeping with the hallway light on and my fear that I was confusing consistency with love. You show up, she said. Kids know the difference. Do they? They always do. The first time she touched my arm, it was an accident. She reached across me for a dish towel, and her fingers brushed my sleeve, and I felt the contact for the rest of the evening. It embarrassed me. I had loved Elena. Part of me still did. For years, I believed that noticing another woman would somehow shrink what Elena had been to me, as though love were a room with a single chair. Claire never asked me to take down Elena's photographs. She didn't compete with the memory. When Noah mentioned his mother, she listened. When he wanted to change the subject, she let him. That reached me deeper than anything she could have said. In May, the center announced a fundraising dinner to fix its leaking roof. Claire volunteered to run the children's table. I agreed to cover first aid and somehow ended up in charge of the silent auction after the director claimed firefighters made people bid more. You're not a firefighter, Claire reminded me. I wear the same shirt. That's deceptive marketing. We spent 3 evenings at the center making signs. Noah and Lucy painted arrows that pointed in opposite directions. Claire stood on a chair to hang paper lanterns, and I steadied the back of it without touching her. You can hold the chair, she said. I am holding the chair. You're hovering near it. I respect structural independence. She laughed and reached a hand down. Daniel, I put both hands on the chair. Thank you. It was such a small exchange, but it held the shape of everything growing between us. She asked, I listened. Nothing was taken for granted. The night of the dinner, a thunderstorm rolled over the city. Rain hit the gym windows, and the lights flickered while 200 people balanced paper plates on their knees. Then the power failed. The room went black. Children screamed, chairs scraped. Someone dropped a tray. My training took over. I switched on my flashlight, called for everyone to stay seated, and moved toward the electrical panel. Before I reached it, Claire's voice rose from the children's table. Lucy, start the dinosaur song. A small off-key voice began to sing in the dark. Noah joined in. Within seconds, 20 children were roaring about a vegetarian tyrannosaurus, and their fear turned into laughter. Claire moved among them with the calm of someone who knew. Panic got smaller the moment you gave it a job. She handed out battery candles from the craft cabinet and assigned older kids to sit with the younger ones. The emergency lights came on pale and weak. I found Claire near the storage room. You were good in there, I said. So were you. I shouted instructions. You made people believe you knew what to do. I did know what to do. Exactly. We stood close in the dim hallway while rain hammered the roof. A loose strand of hair had fallen across her cheek. I wanted to move it. I didn't. Claire looked at my mouth. Then the building generator coughed to life, and the hallway filled with harsh fluorescent light, and we stepped apart at the same time. Later, after the crowd left, we carried trash bags to the alley. The storm had passed, water ran along the curb, and the air smelled like wet pavement and lilacs. Claire leaned against the brick wall. I almost kissed you, she said. My heart struck hard enough to feel foolish. I almost kissed you too. Why didn't you? I wasn't sure you wanted me to. I did. I moved one step closer. Do you still? Her answer was to take the front of my shirt in her hand. The kiss was gentle, then uncertain, then warm enough to make the whole dark alley disappear. When we separated, she kept her forehead against mine. This is complicated, she whispered. I know. I have Lucy. You have Noah. I don't want either of them getting attached to something we haven't figured out. Then we go slowly. She searched my face. You're good at slowly. No. That made her laugh against my shoulder. But I can learn. For the next month, we built something careful. Coffee after drop-off. The farmer's market where the kids chose vegetables they later refused to eat. Claire and I on her back steps after bedtime talking low, while mosquitoes found every inch of exposed skin. I learned she hated carnations, loved old mystery novels, and hummed when she was nervous. She learned I ironed pillowcases, avoided amusement park rides, and still kept Elena's last voicemail on an old phone in my dresser. One evening I played it for her. Elena's voice filled the kitchen, cheerful, and rushed, reminding me to buy milk and telling me she loved me. When it ended, I couldn't look at Claire. She reached across the table and rested her hand beside mine, not on it. You don't have to delete her to make room for me, she said. That was the moment I knew I was falling in love. It was also the moment I became afraid enough to make a terrible mistake. The owner of Miller's Table called me in early June. He remembered the night we'd met Claire and Lucy. A waitress had taken a photograph from across the room. The four of us in the booth, Noah holding up a biscuit, Lucy laughing. Claire turned partly away. The restaurant was launching a Share the Table campaign. Customers could buy an extra meal for someone who needed one, and he wanted to use the photo. It's a good story, he said. Kid sees a hungry family, dad makes room. People need stories like that. I should have said no. I should have asked Claire. Instead, I looked at the photograph and saw what I wanted to see. Two children smiling, two tired parents finding each other a moment of kindness that had led somewhere beautiful. I didn't see the closed menus. I didn't see Claire's purse clutched in her lap. I didn't see how easily strangers would turn her hardest night into a lesson about my character. She's private, I said. We don't have to use names. That made it feel safe, I agreed. The post went up on a Monday morning. By noon, it had been shared 12,000 times. The caption began, when a local single dad saw a struggling mother who couldn't feed her child, he stood up. My name was there because the restaurant wanted to thank Station 8. Claire's wasn't. But her face was, and so was Lucy's. Comments called me a hero. A radio station requested an interview. Someone started a collection for the hungry mother, though no one knew who she was. At 1:17 that afternoon, Claire called. Her voice was so calm, I knew immediately something was wrong. Did you give them permission to use that picture? I stood up from the station kitchen table. Claire, did you? Yes. Silence. I didn't think they'd describe it like that. I can have it taken down. I'll call the owner. My supervisor saw it, Daniel. My stomach dropped. One of the patients showed her. Two mothers at Lucy's preschool recognized us. Grant's sister sent it to him. I'm sorry. You told the whole city my daughter was hungry. I didn't tell them anything. The restaurant wrote that you gave them the picture. There was no anger in her voice yet. Anger would have been easier. I thought it might help the meal program, I said. And you thought our faces would make people give more. I closed my eyes. She kept going, each word controlled. You turned the worst night I've had since moving here into proof that you're a good man. That isn't what you wanted, but it's what you allowed. I sat back down. Around me, the station went on as usual. The refrigerator hummed. A radio crackled in the next room. Someone laughed near the lockers. Claire's breath shook once. Do you know why we had only water that night? No. My debit card had been frozen after a fraudulent charge. I had $27 in cash. The tow company wanted 25 before they'd come. I wasn't unable to feed my child. I was making a decision for one night so I could get her home. I understand. No, you understand now after strangers have already decided who I am. I had no defense. I should have asked you. Yes. I'll get it removed. Everything. Yes. Her voice broke on the last word. And I need you not to come by tonight. Then the call ended. I contacted the restaurant that hour. The owner apologized and deleted the post, but copies had already spread. I declined the radio interview. I asked the restaurant to publish a correction stating the image had been used without the mother's consent and that the original caption had made assumptions it had no right to make. The correction got fewer than 100 shares. The original story kept moving. 3 days later, Grant filed an emergency petition for temporary custody of Lucy. His lawyer attached screenshots of the post as evidence that Claire couldn't provide basic necessities. Claire didn't tell me. I learned it from a voicemail Grant left at the fire station after finding my work number online. You want to play family with my kid? You can explain to a judge why you had to feed her. I drove to Claire's apartment after my shift and stopped before I reached the stairs. She had asked me not to come, so I stayed in my truck and called. She answered after 6 rings. I know about the petition. Silence. I can write a statement, I said. No. I can explain what happened. No, Daniel. My decision caused this. Your decision gave him a weapon. Grant caused this. I want to help. I know. That's the problem. The words landed because they were true. I gripped the wheel. What do you need me to do? Nothing right now. Every part of me resisted. I wanted to call lawyers, pull records, solve the crisis before it reached her door. I spent 10 years walking into emergencies without waiting for an invitation, but this wasn't my emergency to command. All right, I said. She sounded surprised. I'll wait until you ask. For 2 weeks, I did exactly that. I didn't disappear. I took Noah to the center on Thursdays. I answered Lucy when she waved from across the art room, but I didn't approach Claire. After the court set its first hearing date, I sent one message. I'm here. No reply needed. She didn't reply. At home, Noah asked why Lucy no longer rode with us. I made a choice about Claire and Lucy without asking them. I said, it hurt them. Like when you make me wear the blue sweater. Bigger than that, the blue sweater really itches. I know. He considered this. Did you say sorry? Yes. Did it fix it? No. Noah looked down at his cereal. Mom used to say sorry means you do it different next time. Elena had said that. I'd forgotten. Your mom was right. I took my name off the restaurant campaign. Then I asked the owner to change the program entirely. No photographs, no stories about recipients, no public board listing who bought and who received. Customers could add a meal to a general account and anyone could ask for one without explanation. The owner agreed. I didn't tell Claire. An apology that demanded to be witnessed was still a performance. The custody hearing was on a Wednesday in late June. I knew the time because Claire had mentioned it before the post. I spent that morning checking my phone between calls, hating myself for hoping. At 2:40, a message appeared. Can you meet me at Franklin after your shift? I arrived at 6. The center was nearly empty. Claire sat alone in the gym bleachers, while Lucy colored at a table with a volunteer. I stopped a few feet away. Can I sit? She nodded. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The judge denied Grant's emergency request, she said. He also ordered a full custody review in August. That's good, isn't it? It's not bad. She rubbed her palms together. My lawyer wants a statement from you. Only facts. The condition of the car. What I said about the tow. That I offered to pay for the food. I'll write whatever she asks. No hero language. None. No opinions about Grant. None. She looked toward Lucy. I hated needing your statement. I know. I hated that your mistake made it necessary. I know. And I hated missing you. My breath caught. Claire turned toward me, her eyes bright with anger and exhaustion. You don't get to look relieved. I'm trying not to. You're failing. I missed you too. She wiped beneath one eye. I don't know if I trust you yet. You shouldn't pretend you do. That answer seemed to matter. I went on. I saw a photograph of something important to me, and I forgot it was also a photograph of the most vulnerable night of your year. I thought that because my intentions were good, I had the right to choose. I didn't. No. I'm sorry. She nodded once. We sat in silence while Lucy changed crayons. I found out the restaurant changed the program, she said. I looked at her. The owner told me when he called to apologize, you didn't use our picture. No. You didn't tell anyone the change was because of us. No. A small breath left her. That was different. It'll be different from now on. I can't promise you there's a from now on. I know. But when she stood, she touched my shoulder. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't nothing. August arrived hot and heavy. The custody review approached, and Claire's nursing school interview fell in the same week. She lived with a stack of documents on her kitchen table and a permanent line between her eyebrows. I kept my distance where she asked and showed up where she invited. We were no longer kissing. We weren't dating. We were something less comfortable and more honest. Two people deciding whether affection could survive accountability. The children made that decision harder and easier at once. Noah missed Lucy openly. Lucy asked whether Daniel's car was broken. Claire eventually agreed to meet us at the park for 1 hour on Sunday afternoons. The first Sunday, we sat at opposite ends of a bench. The second, we shared a bag of popcorn. The third, she asked whether I had eaten lunch. Is this a test? Yes. Then I had a sandwich. What kind? Turkey. You pass. At the end of July, my station responded to a collision on Interstate 235. A delivery van had crossed the median. 3 cars were involved. I was treating a driver when I heard a child crying from the second vehicle, high and terrified. For one disorienting second, it sounded like Noah. My hand stopped just for a second. My partner called my name, and the training returned. We worked the scene for 40 minutes. No one died. The child had a broken wrist. The driver I treated went to surgery in stable condition. Afterward, I sat on the rear step of the ambulance and couldn't unclench my hands. My captain offered to drive me home. I said no. Then I called Claire. She answered immediately. What happened? I told her. Where are you? The station is Noah with his grandparents. Yes, you don't have to. I know. She arrived 20 minutes later, carrying 2 coffees and no questions. We sat outside behind the station while the sunset turned the clouds orange. I heard him cry, I said, and for a second I was back in the hospital when Elena died. I thought life was taking someone else before I could stop it. Claire put her hand over mine. You can't stop every loss. I know that here. I touched my head. The rest of me hasn't learned. I spent years believing that if I planned every dollar and every minute, Noah would never feel unstable. Then one photograph almost changed a custody case that wasn't even mine to break. I looked at her. Control is a story we tell ourselves when uncertainty is too frightening. Are you forgiving me? I'm telling you, understand why you made the mistake. That's not the same thing. Fair. She squeezed my hand. But I'm also telling you I'm here. This time when we kissed, there was no storm, no darkness, no interruption. We sat behind a fire station beside 2 cooling cups of coffee, and she kissed me because she chose to. The custody review came 2 weeks later. I gave my written statement and answered questions by video. I described the loose battery terminal, the delayed tow, the cash Claire had held back, and the fact that she'd offered to pay for the food. I did not describe her as brave, devoted, or deserving, though she was all 3. Those words weren't evidence. More to the point, they weren't mine to use as decoration. Grant received scheduled visitation, not custody. The court found no evidence that Claire had failed to provide for Lucy. When Claire called with the result, I was making spaghetti. We won, she said, and the word we hung between us. You won, I corrected gently. She was quiet. Then come over. Bring Noah. I bought a cake I can't afford and fully intend to regret. We celebrated in her sloping kitchen. Lucy buried the cake in too many candles. Noah gave a speech about justice that included several incorrect legal terms. After the kids fell asleep, On a pile of blankets in the living room, Claire and I stood by the sink. I got into the nursing program, she said. I turned. You did? It starts in January. A pause. It's in Cedar Rapids, 2 hours away. The joy in me collided with fear. Claire watched my face. I haven't decided, she said. There's a wait list here too, but no guarantee. I wanted to tell her to stay. I wanted to offer rent, childcare, transportation, every solution my mind could build. Instead, I asked, what do you want? Her eyes filled. No one has asked me that without already hoping for a certain answer. I'm hoping. I know. But I'm asking anyway. She leaned against the counter. I want to be a nurse. I want Lucy to have stability. I want Grant's visits to be manageable. And I want... She stopped. You can want all of those things, I said, moving closer without touching her. What if they don't all fit? Then we find out honestly. I won't ask you to make yourself smaller so I can feel safe. She closed the distance between us. I love you, she whispered. The words struck deeper than the kiss that followed. I love you too. Claire accepted the Cedar Rapids program. For 6 months, our relationship lived on highways and calendars and tired phone calls. She and Lucy rented a small apartment near campus during the week and came back to Des Moines most weekends. Some Fridays I drove east with Noah. Some Sundays Claire drove west before sunrise. It wasn't easy. We argued about fuel costs and missed calls and whether I was trying to solve her exhaustion when she only wanted me to listen. Once I drove 2 hours with groceries she hadn't asked for. She made me take half of them home. But we learned. I asked before helping. She asked before assuming I was taking over. The children learned that love could be reliable, even across distance. In October, the Des Moines nursing program offered Claire a transfer for the spring term after another student withdrew. She accepted it because it was the better choice for her finances, Lucy's custody schedule, and her own support system, not because I asked. I didn't. The following March, almost a year after the restaurant, Claire and Lucy moved into a duplex 4 blocks from our house. Not with us, near us. That matters, Claire said, and we signed no papers together and carried no boxes across a shared threshold. It does, I agreed. We were building a family without pretending that closeness required surrender. On the anniversary of the night we met, Noah insisted we go back to Miller's table. The restaurant looked the same. The neon sign still flickered. The booths still had cracked red vinyl. Near the register, a small card explained the share the table account. Need a meal. Ask your server. No story required. No photographs on the wall. We sat in a corner booth. Noah ordered the family platter before I could object. We need enough for everyone, he said. We are everyone, Claire replied. Not necessarily. Lucy, now 6, nodded as though this made perfect sense. Halfway through dinner, I noticed a man near the door with 2 teenage boys. He spoke quietly to the hostess, then glanced toward the exit. One of the boys stared at a plate passing by. Noah saw them too and leaned toward me, older now but still unable to ignore what adults train themselves not to see. Dad, he whispered, I don't think they've eaten. The old impulse rose in me to decide arrange rescue. Then I remembered. I waved our waitress over. Is the share the table account available tonight? She nodded. Would you tell that gentleman he can use it if he wants? And please tell him the offer comes from the restaurant, not from us. The waitress smiled. Of course. Claire watched me. What? I asked. Oh, you asked? I'm capable of growth. Occasionally. The man listened to the waitress, his shoulders lowered. He nodded once, and she led him and the boys to a booth across the room. No applause followed. No one took a picture. The restaurant kept moving. Noah looked disappointed. Aren't they going to sit with us? They might want their own table, Claire said. Lucy nudged the basket of biscuits toward the edge of ours. In case they want honey. Noah considered that, then took one biscuit and set it on a clean side plate. Jam is also okay, he announced. I looked around our table. Noah had grown taller. Lucy's braids were shorter. Claire wore the silver watch I'd given her after asking whether gifts still made her uncomfortable. She said some did, but that one wouldn't. Her nursing textbooks were stacked in the trunk of her car. My wedding ring, which I'd worn on a chain for years, now rested in a small wooden box at home beside Elena's old phone. Putting it there hadn't erased a life. It had only admitted that mine was still moving. Claire slipped her hand into mine beneath the table. The night we met, I believed I stood because my son saw hunger. I understand now that he saw something larger. He saw two people separated from us by a few feet and refused to accept that distance as permanent. But making room is not the same as taking control. Kindness isn't measured by how fast we act or how grateful someone looks afterward. Sometimes kindness is a question. Sometimes it's a chair pulled back without pressure. Sometimes it's the discipline to let another person choose the shape of the help they receive. The man across the restaurant caught my eye. He didn't smile or nod, and he didn't owe me either. He turned back to his sons as the waitress set down 3 plates. That was enough. Outside, spring rain began tapping against the windows, soft and steady, almost exactly as it had a year earlier. Noah and Lucy argued about biscuits. Claire leaned her head against my shoulder. For the first time in years, I didn't feel that loving someone new betrayed the person I'd lost. Love had never been a room with one chair. It was a table, and the best tables aren't filled by heroes. They're filled by people who ask, listen, make space, and stay. Before you go, tell me in the comments about a time someone helped you in a way that protected your dignity instead of taking it. And if this story reminded you that real kindness begins with respect, subscribe, and stay for the next one.